students, some of our teachers, and some of my friends and colleagues. So I want to deeply appreciate Mr. David Gold and his team for this incredible event. I was really excited when I was invited because it's been a while since I spoke to young teenagers and young pupils and students like you guys. So all of you who are here, please give yourself a round of applause. So for background, I would really want to introduce myself. I don't do that, but my name is John Otache Emmanuel, like they just said. I am a lawyer, like my senior colleague here. We were the same school, but he was my senior in 1 year. So I'm a lawyer and I'm also a marketing expert. I've been doing marketing and sales since I was in the university. And when I came here, I had something I wanted to talk about, something incredible. But when I saw all of you, my topic changed. So I'm going to be talking to you about self-leadership, leading with tomorrow in view. And I really want you to pay attention. Like, pay attention. So I want silence. Take notes if you can. And then just listen to me. Hope you're hearing me. Hope you're hearing me. I am so sure that someone's life is going to be transformed positively, and someone is going to be inspired to pursue their dreams, live with tomorrow in view, and truly take leadership really seriously. So I'm going to start with a background story. I always love to tell stories. If you want to listen to a story, then you've got to keep quiet. So I went through all of my primary and secondary school life as a stutterer, as a stammerer. Who here stammers? If you stammers, let me see your hand up. Wow, nobody stammers, so you guys are incredible then. So I went through primary and secondary school as a stutterer. I was like a damn stutterer. I couldn't talk so well, so my self-esteem was really in the gutters. Like, I didn't have a very good self-esteem. I didn't think I was anybody, to be honest, because, you know, if you cannot communicate, then how can you really project whether you are somebody or not? I had low self-confidence. I was a little bit smart in school, like I came 5th, 6th, and maybe sometimes 10th position, but I didn't think I was smart at all. I stutter, all of my siblings, we stutter. 7 of us were stammerers. Yeah, so it was quite a show at home. Home was peaceful because I could relate with everybody because they all stammered. But when I went to school, I felt ashamed of myself. I had low self-confidence and I couldn't communicate. But I think one of the things that really changed my life and really improved my confidence was the confidence that my teachers had in me. You know, they were seeing things that I couldn't see. So my teachers would constantly give me leadership position. Because tell me, I wasn't the best in my class. I wasn't the most confident, but I always almost found myself being the class prefect, assistant class prefect, or something kept coming that gave me leadership positions. So I'm really grateful for all of my teachers who saw, you know, everything they saw in me, because I wasn't seeing anything at that time. And added to the fact that I came from a very humble background. My parents weren't well-to-do. My mom was selling charcoal, and my dad was a gate man in the bank. And to make it even worse, my dad was a gate man in the bank in almost the front of my school. You know, all of my classmates asked me what my dad did. I told them that my dad is a chief security officer. But yeah, that was a better way to call him. You know, it was a better way to say he was a gate man. And almost every time I would see my dad, he wasn't a tall man, as you can see me, and he would constantly run to the gates and try to open the gates for another man. Believe me, I didn't like that part. You know, it was embarrassing for me, but my dad had to do what he had to do to put food on the table. He was a good man. He did his best. But always I asked my mom this question: why did my dad end up being a gate man? And why did you end up selling charcoal and firewood? You know, they've told me several episodes of the story, but the consistent story they've told me about my dad was that his father died early. Not early really, but his father died and left him. and his mother also abandoned him. So he was alone, and in primary three, he had to drop out of school because nobody was there to pay his school fees. And so he didn't go to school. So I kept feeling pity for him all the time. I saw him jumping around being a gate man and all that stuff. And my mom, I asked her similar story. She grew up in the village, and then nobody really prioritized education for women. Women were at best go to the farm, get married. My mom got married at 17 years old, and that was it. That was the story they kept telling me. But one of the days, I went to my mom and I asked her the question again: how come my dad ended up as a gate man? And for the first time, she told me the true story. That although my father didn't have anybody to pay his school fees, that wasn't the end of the story. He also had one of his friends that they dropped out together. But that friend struggled, did farm work, did menial labor, sometimes hard labor, and paid himself through school. And today, his friend is a medical doctor. And my dad ended up as a gate man. So, what's the moral of the story? It taught me something very incredible at that very young age, because I think I was still in secondary school, like most of you are, and some of you are in primary school. But it taught me a really very incredible story, that truly we all have our destinies in our hands. And even though circumstances may come, my dad lost his parents, his mom abandoned him, and all of those things, he still had a part to play in how his destiny unfolded. You understand? That it wasn't necessarily a sad story that he ended up a gate man, because one of his friends had a similar pathway and ended up a doctor. And from that particular time, because as a stammerer, as a stutterer, I felt like I was just probably going to end up studying mass comm. No offense to people that studied mass comm, not mass comm, sorry, studying history, because it didn't require me to talk a lot, just read my books and I'll be good. But that particular day, for me, launched my dream. As a stutterer, I said I am going to take my destiny into my hands, and I'm going to dare the impossible. I'm going to become a lawyer. Imagining a stammerer being a lawyer, it was almost impossible. Everyone I told that I was going to be a lawyer laughed at me, because it wasn't possible. Because how would I defend my clients in courts? Like, how would that happen? Like, stammering in courts, it would be a very, very funny scenario. I'll crack up the judge and everybody. But that particular story of how my dad ended up a gate man really motivated me to wanting more from my life. I knew being a stutterer wasn't the hindrance at all. I knew that I had something incredible in me, and I wouldn't allow the circumstances of life to deter me. So I set out, to being maybe one of the best students in my class. I started to read like no tomorrow. I started to embrace that even though I had what a lot of people would call a speaking disability, but I wasn't disabled. Even though I came from a family that my mom sells firewood and my dad was a gate man, that's not an excuse for me to be a mediocre. I am not a victim. I have my own life in my hands, and I'm going to be the leader of my life. And Nigeria wasn't, the best that time, because my dad, before he became a gate man, was working with the government. But he was compulsorily retired because of cell phones. When cell phones came into vogue, they didn't need him because he was a telephone operator and his certificates wasn't up to par, and that's why he was compulsorily retired. Things weren't bad, but Nigeria wasn't the best. We had food to eat at least and a roof over our head. So I set out to lead my destiny. I wanted to become a lawyer. I wanted to change the trajectory of my family. I wanted to be the first person to go to the university in my family. And I told my dad one day, you know what? Any job that I'm going to take going forward has to pay me more than 500K. My dad then was earning 12,500. And he looked at me with a very stern look and said, this guy, you're going to become a thief someday. But I saw the possibility. I was a young lad, like some of you here, but I saw that I could really make the best out of my life. And I set out for it. Mind you, I grew up in an angwa. it's typical Angwa. Most of my peers then, even when we were in secondary school, were already smoking weed. You know, some of them were already taking alcohol, and my area was a den of thugs, cultists, crazy things were happening. But you know what I told myself? I am not going to be part of this history. I'm not going to be another of my father or another of his peers who had their destinies in their hands and threw it away. I said I was going to turn, everything around for myself. And to cut the long story short, I finished secondary school. I wrote my WAEC. Something crazy happened. I failed my WAEC. Because you know why? I told myself that I'm not going to cheat in my WAEC. I had some of my peers, contributing money for exam malpractice and all that stuff, but I stood my ground and said, you know what, I'm not going to cheat. And I failed one subject that was supposed to add up for me to have my 5 complete credit to study law. But I said, nah, I'm going to write NICO. And I wrote NICO, didn't cheat, and I passed my papers. Clap for me. So I now set out to write my JAM. I said it's either law or nothing. I was not going to, give up my dream of becoming a lawyer. Even though the more I had the dream to become a lawyer, the more my stammering increased like crazy. It was like a comedy show when I was trying to talk. But I kept at it. And I wrote my first JAM. Guess what? I wasn't admitted. I got 200 and something, but I wasn't admitted. And it was crazy. And so I told myself, I'm going to go to school regardless. Because nobody in my house went to university. Everybody stopped at secondary school. And mind you, we're 7 in my house. But nobody went to the university, and I was the 5th child. So I went to IJMB. IJMB is like an arm bridge between secondary school and university. It's like an A-level course. I went there with a very good determination. And in between that, I also wrote JAM. So when I wrote my second JAM, I got almost 260. And then I went to write my post-CTME in ABU. Over 400, I got 300. Incredible. I'd gotten admission, but I had to finish my IJMB, wrote it. I became the best student in my IJMB. I aced all my results and all of those things, because my determination to become a lawyer has already taken over me. I wanted to rewrite, the history of my family. I wanted to change the times. So I got admitted into law in ABU. As a sorcerer, I still had a little bit of a low self-esteem. I didn't think I was anybody, because when I went there, I saw a new life entirely. People really had money. All of my classmates, some had cars, had very good phones, iPhones. I didn't even know how to operate an iPhone then. It was alien. I didn't have a phone then and all that stuff. Life was very, very tense and difficult in the university, but I kept at it. 100 level was one of the best in my class until I finished school. I'm done with it. I became a lawyer, and before I became a lawyer, before everything ended, before I graduated, I told myself that I wanted to build a business while in the university. I wanted to sustain myself through law school and through the remainder of my undergraduate days. And I'm not going to tell that other part of the story anyways. But you know what? I built a business in school. And while in university, I became a millionaire. Clap for me. I told myself that I am not going to venture into fraud. Because I had most of my mates from where I grew up in, they had quit school, didn't go to the university or something, and for them the only alternative then was to go into fraud. While I looked at my mom, she had suffered for us all through these years, and what I would reward her with was going to be a fraudster. I said no, never. So I struggled, and I built a marketing company from scratch, sleepless nights, all of those things. And yeah, became a millionaire, started to help my mom, started to help my dad, improve the living condition of my family. But something devastating happened. In between all that, my dad fell sick. He had stroke, and my dad died. Yeah. It was for me one of the most defining moments of my life. Even though I had gone to school, studied law, started to run a business, and was fairly successful in my own rights, the death of my dad really redefined life for me. It gave my meaning, it gave my life meaning, and it gave me purpose. And I went back to the drawing board to, redesign my life. I told myself that life wasn't going to be just about money, but it was going to be from now henceforth about purpose, about impact, and about really, really helping the people around me. And that's when I became inspired to start being inspired with Otache. Even though I then had, understood that I had to take charge of my life, I had to really redesign my life. I didn't know what I was, entering into then. But after the death of my dad, I really understood that life truly is supposed to be lived with a meaning and with a purpose. Like, you really need to sit down, even as young as you are, to design your life to the best of information that you currently have. Because as you grow, things are going to change and things are going to evolve. So one of the things I told myself was to really sit down and ask myself, what am I here on earth to do? If you believe in God, Christian, Muslim, or any religion that believes in God, you know that we all have a purpose here on earth. I sat down and I redesigned my life. What am I here on earth for? What would I want to achieve here on earth? And how do I want to go about it? Who do I want to impact? Who do I want to really transform their lives? And how do I really want to give back to the society that really helped me become what I am becoming? Because I'm still on the process of becoming. And I told myself, am I a victim of the circumstances? Because everybody around me blamed Nigeria for who they are, why they don't have jobs, why their families were poor or something. But I told myself, am I going to be a victim, or am I going to be the decider of my own destiny? Am I going to rewrite my destiny by myself, or am I going to hand it over to some politicians or my parents or somebody else to help me write my destiny? And I said, you know what? I'm going to be the writer of my destiny. I'm not a victim. Tell yourself, I'm not a victim. I'm going to write my destiny. I'm going to lead with tomorrow in view. So, living with tomorrow in view taught me a lot of things, that I would have to, give up some certain level of comfort and pleasure now so that I can enjoy it, in the future. So it means that I had to pick up reading books. Because, as an Angwa boy, I grew up in Jos, I didn't like reading books at all. The only time I read my books was when I was, about to write an exams or a test. And because I wanted to rewrite my life, I wanted to lead with tomorrow in view, I had to start reading books, inspirational books, spiritual books, any form of book you could think of. And even though I still don't, love reading that much, I had to discipline myself to read at least then one book a month. That really, really changed my life, and it connected me to the outside world. Remember I told you that I started a business, but I didn't tell you what kind of business, because reading books really opened my mind that I could connect myself to the world, that I could build a business beyond the shores of Nigeria. And after 6 years, I built a business where I've worked with over 100 clients, and all of them were asked from the United States, the United Kingdom, Canada, Sweden, Switzerland, because I picked up reading books. Reading books really expanded my mind to see that, wait, I'm not just limited to Nigeria, but I am open to the global scope. Do you know that reading books can really redesign your mind to begin to see opportunities where you think there are no opportunities? And because I was reading, I also found some opportunities to volunteer with the United Nations. I worked with the United Nations for a while, volunteered for an NGO, and I really lived life, even though I was young, still very young, and all of those things. And reading books also opened my mind up to some hacks that really helped me communicate better. Because stuttering, nobody was born a stammerer. I hope you know that. Stammerer or stuttering is a learned, you learn it. And because I saw my siblings, at a very young age stammering, that's how I learned that I picked up stammering. I wasn't born as a stutterer, and I had to learn to redesign my tongue so I could talk better. So really, really helped me to find this hack, and that's why I can speak the way I speak without really stuttering a lot, because of reading. And what also led me to the next level was mentoring. I found out that if I was going to be the best version of myself, if I was going to really excel at what I do, my career, and everything else, I had to look for mentors. As a guy, I looked for another man or another guy who was really doing very well in my field, spiritually, he was doing well, and I approached them to become my mentors. So what I would advise you, if you're a guy, look for a guy who is a mentor. If you're a lady, look for a lady in church, a mother, somebody who's really doing well to mentor you. And it should be with the consent of your parents. Do you understand me? Very important. Everybody should have a mentor. Turn to your friend and say, you should have a mentor. And ask them if they have a mentor. Do you have a mentor? And let them answer you. Great. So everybody should have a mentor that really mentors them. Because you know what? Alone, listen guys, alone you are like a wildfire. You are open up to a lot of things, crazy ideas, jumping right, left and center. But with a mentor, you are accountable to somebody. You cannot run this journey alone. Even though I said I built a business and all of those things, when I was in school, Mr. Manasseh, the first speaker, was one of my mentors. Because when I wanted to build a business, I was young, naive, and I reached out to him and said, hey, I want to build this. This is what I want to do. And he encouraged me and he gave me some tips. And under 3 months, I'd made a lot of money that I'd never seen before, because I had a mentor like him. So you all need a mentor. Can be your teacher, can be your pastor, can be anybody who at least your parents can vet. Very important. And the third thing that I also want to talk about is the discipline to do. I think one of the greatest challenges in your generation is your cell phone. Hope you know that. It's an advantage, but it also carries with it a lot of disadvantage. How many of you have cell phones? Oh wow, okay, good. A good number of you don't have cell phones. That is good. Not so good anyways. But I think one way your generation is really plagued is cell phones. Some of you, I remember when I was in school, I can stay from 12 a.m. to 5 a.m. just pressing my phone, just going through Facebook Reels, watching videos, and just looking at the time. I've spent all night looking at my phone and doing nothing. There's a lot of disadvantage with the phone, but it also carries with it a lot of disadvantage. So one of the things you need to do is to watch your habits with your cell phones. If you cannot manage your cell phones, you're entering into a lot of trouble. And even my generation, I'm speaking like somebody who is very old, even my generation, we struggle a lot with our cell phones. I know people who can press their cell phones from morning till night. And the only time they give their cell phone, breathing space is when they fall asleep. Not when they sleep off, when they fall asleep. And the first thing most of you look for is your cell phone. You tap. When you grab it, that's the first thing you look at. It's a habit that you must build discipline over. If you cannot build discipline over your cell phone, you're into a lot of trouble. Let me tell you something. Do you know that pressing too much of phone affects your brain capacity? Do you know that? Science has shown that the more you press phone, the more you increase your mumu button. Do you know that? That your brain gets fried up with so much radioactive and so much connection between your cell phone and your brain, and really decreases the ability for you to concentrate, the ability for you to sit down without doing anything. Some people cannot sit down without doing anything. It's not possible for them because they've gotten so much accustomed with their cell phone, and it's really, really affecting their brain. And I also read yesterday that too much of cell phone has affected how people, are patient. Before now, someone can stand in a queue for 2 hours, and not do anything. But people are now very impatient. Even when you're driving, somebody cannot just wait for you 30 seconds for you to make a turn. He's already horning, I want to go, I want to leave. And same thing with young people, children, teenagers, adults alike. People are impatient. And all that is because of your cell phones, your computers, and all of this device. So this is a hack I want all of you to learn. You must have days where you don't touch your cell phone. Like maybe a weekend, you say, today I'm not going to touch my cell phone because I'm home, so my parents can see me, I can see them, so they don't need to look for me. So today I'm not going to touch my cell phone. I'm going to increase my brain capacity by keeping my cell phone away. Who's going to do that with me? Wow. Let me ask again. Who is going to do that with me? That you keep one day, just one day. Okay, great. I have more numbers. That you keep one day where you stay off your phone. The reason why I'm saying this, hey guys, listen to me. Listen, okay, the reason why I'm saying this is because you need to protect your brain. Because the reason why you need to protect your brain, aside from the health, disadvantages and all that, is because there's a lot of competition in the world right now. And thank God you guys are in secondary school, but the world has really advanced so further without you guys. I'm not going to say that you are disadvantaged, but I'm going to say that you guys have a lot of room to cover. Technology has really grown, skyrocketed, in China, in the US, in UK, Europe, everywhere around the world. Technology has really extended more than we have it here. And if you cannot compete with your mates who are, in China, in the US, and all of those things, and your brain is constantly being fried, your ability to concentrate is decreasing, your ability to want to read your books is decreasing, then you are in for a long ride. Hope you know that. You've got to be able to compare with your peers side by side and, maybe outdo them. Before now, the folks in Nigeria, students in Nigeria, were so intelligent, when technology, AI has not really advanced to this certain level. We were so intelligent, dogged, we love to read, spelling bees, we are at the top, and all of those things, but it started to decline. Did you notice that? People stopped reading books, people stopped concentrating, people didn't even love school at all. School was like a chore. You wake up every morning and you're grumpy, you don't want to go to school. You prefer maybe sit down at home, watch TV, press your phone. You just want to lazy around. So for that purpose, you need to drop your phone so that your brain capacity can increase and so that you can really compete at the international level. Just a few days ago, my school, where I graduated from, ABU, won some tech competition in the world. It was a global competition and ABU came first. And no, I'm done with ABU, so some of you are going to be going to the university very soon and you want to get ready for the competition in the university. I tell you the truth, one of your advantages as young people is being exceptionally good academically. That you can really tour the world, you can get opportunities, scholarship opportunities, you can go to the best universities in the world with the best results. And the foundation for best results starts now. I remember there was a lady in my class who schooled in Kaduna here. I don't remember the school she went to, but she was in ABU with us. She was so dogged at reading her books. And then we felt it was a little bit awkward. She liked books so much. But we didn't know that she was gearing herself for the opportunities of a lifetime. She came out the best student in my class. She finished with first class, and before we could close and open our eyes, she was already in Cambridge University. And before we could close and open our eyes, she was already working with the World Bank. And she was already touring around the world because she was the best in my class and the best in her class in the Nigerian law school. So one of your advantage you have in leading with tomorrow in view is to become so dogged at reading your books and becoming one of the best in your class. You know, we thought that, you know, being the best in your class was a yesterday's thing, that you've seen third class, you know, becoming the best, but now it's almost not obtainable. If you do not, you know, tighten up your belt, you know, really take your academics so seriously, you are in for a ride. And I don't want to wish you what happened to my dad, but if you don't really take your book seriously, you probably might end up being a gate man. And the last thing I'm really going to talk about, you know, even though I talked about cell phones and all of those things, but leading with tomorrow in view, one of the things that I want you guys to take seriously is the advancement of technology. Who knows how to use AI here? Great. So one of the things I'm really going to challenge you guys, you know, if you want to use your phone, which I think you should, use it and really take out the best in it, is to really go and learn about AI. If you're living here with anything, is to go pick up AI. You know, find courses online, go to Coursera, or I'm sure some of the organizers of this will tell you some of the links to go look for AI. But I think artificial intelligence is one thing that everybody needs to take seriously. Do you understand me? How many of you here don't know how to use AI? Like, you don't even know what it means. Yes, there's a few hands. And I want you guys, like I said, to go take up artificial intelligence. Learn how to use AI to really improve the quality of your mind, you know, the quality of your work. For some of you have skill sets here, like graphic designers, video editors. If you're a video editor, let me see your hands up. Graphic designer, Forex. Okay, great. So what AI is going to do for you is that it's going to help you, you know, shorten your learning experience, and it's going to really open you up to the opportunities that, you know, other people outside of this place in the UK, China, and all over the world are currently going through. Do you understand what I'm saying? Some of you don't understand what I'm saying, but just go and learn about it. If you have a cell phone or if you have a computer, that you can really go into it. And I knew I said the last thing, but how many minutes do I have? Okay, I have 5 minutes. So great. I'm going to talk about Nigeria a little bit. Oh? Okay, it's time. Good. 10 minutes. Oh, awesome. 3 minutes. Good. Okay, so how many of you like Nigeria? Great. Today is 12th, and today is what? What is Democracy Day? Who knows what is Democracy Day? Yeah. Yeah.
That day, initially it was basic. That was maybe that.
Yeah. Okay, awesome. Did you guys hear him? Please repeat that.
Democracy Day in Nigeria was when Nigerians, like honest Nigerians, fought for their lives. They fought to make sure that everything was free and fair. So we are celebrating elections today because of that particular act they did. I can't remember the date, but it was 1990 something. So Democracy Day is just to celebrate freedom. Like,
Yeah.
people have the right to express their choice.
Great, please let's clap for him. Okay, that's really wonderful. So Nigeria is going through, crazy times, hard times. There's a lot of kidnapping, corruption, banditry, terrorism at its peak. But one thing I'm going to leave you guys with today is that we can truly rewrite the history and the story of Nigeria. First, the thing we need to do is to be positive about Nigeria. There's a lot of negative talk about Nigeria. There's so much negativity in the air. And one thing I want you to do is not to contribute to the negativity. Every time you hear a negative thing about Nigeria, come up with a positive counter. Who's going to do that with me? If you hear a negative thing, because we don't have anywhere else to go. Do you have anywhere else to go? This is our country, and we will fight for it. And we will not fight for it with our blood. We will not fight for it with negativity. Every time you hear a negative thing about Nigeria, because it's your future they're talking about, there's so much negativity being imputed into your future. And remember, I'm talking about leading with tomorrow in view, self-leadership. And one thing you can do is to rise up to the negativity in the atmosphere. So anybody talks negative about Nigeria, that this country no go better, you've got to counter them and say, I believe in Nigeria, I believe in my future. Because of me, Nigeria is going to be better. Thank you so much. Please clap for me.